Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to our latest hilarious virtual reality session. I'm Keith Crombie, Business Growth Enabler for the Royal Bank of Scotland, and along with my fellow Business Growth Enablers, we're normally to be found out and about in your local communities, helping you obtain the support you need to grow and expand your business. However, with the ongoing restrictions, we've adapted and embraced new technology to continue to provide you with insightful events direct from our living rooms, bedrooms, or even garden sheds, although not in this weather. At the Royal Bank of Scotland, we want to be the bank of choice for women in business. In 2019, Alison Rose led the Rose Review into Female Entrepreneurship, commissioned by the Treasury, that showed that if women started and grew businesses at the same rate as men, it would add £250 billion to the UK economy. We're working on implementing the 8 recommendations from the Rose Review across the industry to help achieve that, and are pleased to be one of the founding members of the Investing in Women Code, alongside more than 60 other banks and financial institutions. Now, last year, Alison Rose, the only female CEO of a high street UK bank, also announced our new purpose: to be the champion of UK business and be the biggest supporter of startups in the UK and Republic of Ireland, by helping create 50,000 new businesses by 2023 and supporting 500,000 people on their journey. As part of that, we aim to make sure that 60% of that support goes towards women. Because of the extraordinary impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, the bank has seen exceptionally high demand from female-led businesses and has exceeded £1 billion of lending in under 12 months. The availability and ease of access to the government lending schemes through digital channels, combined with the effects of the pandemic, has led to many more female entrepreneurs applying for funding. The bank's share of lending to female founders has not only increased in absolute terms, but proportionately risen from 9.5% to 14% of total lending. I'm delighted to be able to confirm that NatWest Group last week announced an additional £1 billion in funding to help support female-led businesses in the UK recover from disruption caused by coronavirus. You'll find full details on our website, rbs.co.uk/business. Now, we know that life continues to be very challenging for us all, and with constant changing conditions due to COVID-19, we've once again partnered with Funny Women to bring you skills and techniques from the world of stand-up comedy to help us all navigate through these uncertain times with greater resilience and some humour. If you're watching on the Royal Bank Business LinkedIn channel, you can ask any question as we go through the session as a comment, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can use the live chat. As a music lover, I was super excited when I was asked to host this session. The speakers have the surnames Gaga and McCartney. So to find out more, it's my pleasure to introduce you now to Lynn Parker, founder and chief executive of Funny Women.
Oh, Keith, we love you. Sorry, we can't bring you Lady Gaga or McCartney, but you know what? It doesn't matter, does it? It's so great to be with you. And we love working with the Scottish contingent. It's brilliant. So thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'll crack on if that's all right with you. So today's event is, as Keith so rightly put it, is all about how we use this space. He mentioned garden sheds. I'm in my basement, as you can see, a cozy little room. So we're all working in different environments. We're having to work differently, both physically and visually. And we're also still expected to make some personal impact. We've all been affected differently by the ups and downs of the pandemic. And new working practices may well have knocked your confidence or eaten into the time that you normally spend on family, friends and hobbies. I, for one, don't know where the time goes. So what we've done today is to make sure that we've given you a little bit of time off, chock full of some great advice to hopefully help you get the best out of yourselves. Now, some of you may have used this time to working from home to either start a new business, or you might have found strategies to juggle a role in a larger organisation, And then you might be also juggling that with homeschooling, or you might be lucky enough to be rekindling long neglected hobbies. Whatever you're doing, and however we look at it, virtual reality is very much here to stay and will continue to be part of our working practice and ongoing communications way beyond any more lockdowns and social distancing, although maybe the end is in sight. Now, the ability to adapt and pivot has been critical to those of us who really do need to earn a living. And that might be working for yourself or working for somebody else. And the winners in that game instinctively know how to improvise and think on their feet, even though we can't see our feet at the moment. And this is still the best metaphor that I know for being open to the possibilities. And as Monica will tell you, one of our speakers tonight, it's all about the power of saying yes. Now, it's easy to use the stresses of workload, family, tiredness, and anything else you can think of as an excuse not to do the thing you really want to do. Yet it's probably just nestling under the surface. But how do you make the most of that opportunity when it arises? Speaking very much from my personal experience, I had always been drawn to the entertainment industry. And during my previous career in PR and marketing, I'd spent a lot of time organising events and promotions and working with people who entertain. Indeed, Funny Women actually came about because in 2002, following an exchange with a client who was a comedy promoter, I was questioned about why I was questioned about why I was involved with women, and he questioned why that he should even book women. He just saw no need for it. He told me that women weren't funny, and indeed there were no funny women. That was my light bulb moment, and really, 19 years on, the rest is history. I've had my revenge. Now, Funny Women is my life's work, without trying to sound too corny. And I'm really proud of the fact that I built up a nationwide and even a global not-for-profit community for women to perform, write, create comedy, do business with humour. And right at the heart of our organisation are our awards. And last year we ran the competition during lockdown. And I'm very proud to say that one of our speakers tonight is a recipient of one of those awards, which we had to adapt and improvise for the online space. So more of that later. Now, the work we do as our Hilarious initiative, like this event tonight, did come out of running workshops around comedy and writing and performing for people that were in the industry. But we worked out that a lot of tricks of the trade that we used for performers were also useful for empowering you in your business and personal lives. I've got a little slide, which hopefully our wonderful backroom person will pop up on the screen, that just gives you a few of my personal tips. There we go. So that's my little summary. And hopefully they're helpful for you. So follow your instinct, be open to experiences and take opportunities. That'd be my best 3 bits of advice for you. So let's move to our guests. Enough of me, I think. Tonight, I'm joined by 2 fabulous, inspirational women who I also have the honour of working with as performers, speakers and facilitators at Funny Women. The first of those speakers is Monica Gaga, not Lady Gaga. Hopefully she's here and is going to pop on the screen. Monica is a British-born Black African queer improviser, that's a tongue twister, facilitator, host, performer and producer. She trained in community theatre at East 15 Acting School, and her boundless love for improv stems from time spent at Second City in Chicago. We'll lead you through some improv exercises aimed at improving and enhancing your performance. When we were preparing for these shows, I asked Monica about her biggest challenge during lockdown, and she said prophetically, allowing myself to rest. I hope she is still getting plenty of rest, because I don't know how much we are all getting these days. And I asked her also what she's most proud of. And she said, my ability to adapt and grow, capturing the essence of improv and reimagining it online so I can continue to play and work online. I think that's playing online is a good metaphor for what you're about to talk about, Monica. So without further ado, let me introduce the wonderful Monica Gaga.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I feel like it's the part of me was waiting for applause. Maybe the people in the streets will start clapping for me. Who knows? Hello, my name is Monica Gaga. I suppose when the name Gaga is mentioned, people are thinking there's going to be a show going on and it's going to be singing. I am not doing that. Lady Gaga is smashing it in her field, and hopefully I can bring to you the things that I'm doing in my field. So as Lynn said, I'm a performer, I'm an improviser, I'm a facilitator, I'm a comedian, and improv changed my life, which, okay, it seems like I'm trying to bring you into a cult, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want to share with you how improv entered into my life, the way that I use it, and you can take it, you can leave it, but hopefully on this journey, we're going to have a little bit of fun. If you have any questions, definitely pop them in the chat. Will I come to them straight away? Who knows? Life has no scripts. Will I come to them later? Yes, because I'm going to have the support of my colleagues on the screen. So if I don't see it, they'll see it as well. So improv. What is improv? Improv is life with no script, performance with no script, which is happening all the time. I'm an improviser. You're an improviser. You're cooking a meal. You're missing that one ingredient. You improvise. You meet someone for the first time. There's no script. No one sends you cue cards beforehand. You improvise. And that power of improvising, that power of listening to our intuition, and also the power of play is something I'm going to speak to you about. When I was about 10 or 11, it was the summer of going into, I feel like there should be a theme tune in the background. It was the summer of going into high school, secondary school. And my grandmother, a white Russian woman, took me to this play scheme, this summer scheme for drama and performance. I did not want to go. I'd never done anything like that before, except for a school play. But she's obviously seeing what I'm doing around the house, and she's like, "This is not great for me, but I'm sure there's a place for it." So I went to a community hall somewhere in Greater London, and I was introduced to improv. I had 2 weeks of so much fun. I felt a place where I could be really free. I felt a place where I could play. And even though I was only 10 or 11, as we get older, well, in my experience, playing is something that is slowly taken away because it's something that we see is for children and it's not for the adult world, or if you're trying to enter into the young adult world as I was. But I love to play. I love to bring out different voices. I love to just really truly listen to what another person is doing and get that feedback. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about is play. So we'll take the P of play, and that's presence, really truly being in the moment, which is so difficult, I feel. Even if you maybe have the privilege of working from home, even when we're working from home, you're thinking, I'm going to have so much time. I'm going to learn a different language. I'm going to start ballet. I don't know what I'm going to become American for some reason. And none of these things happen because we're piling things on top of ourselves, on top of ourselves, on top of ourselves. And almost, and I'm not sure if you feel this, I feel guilty if I'm only doing one thing, or I used to feel this like shroud of guilt if I was resting, as if to say like, I should be doing something more. I don't, like, me just being is not enough. No, being present and being in the moment is so important. It's important for ourselves and that connection that we have with ourselves, and it's so important for connecting with others. How often do we check in on ourselves? How often do we take pause and go, deep breath, and go, how am I doing? That's why I love to do this activity, which is called Rose and Thorn. At the beginning of doing a workshop or a performance, or sometimes maybe just in the morning before I start my day, I like to just really reflect and think, okay, what's a rose and a thorn that's in my life at the moment? So I might have gone from the day before, or even just the whole week. So just taking a moment to say, okay, what was a rose from the week? What was that positive thing that's just is in the front of my mind, the top of my mind? So I'm going to give you a moment now to think of that. What is the rose from your week or the last 7 days? What's on the top of your mind? And I'm not sure if you're judging yourself, but don't judge yourself. that first thing that comes to your mind, that's great. Go with that. And then also on the flip side, what's the thorn? What's the thing that if you could, oh my gosh, you would change this? What's that thing? From your week, from the last 7 days, it's just like, that wasn't so cool. If I had a magic wand, I would change that. Now, for the purposes of this workshop, I'm going to talk over your thinking time. But yeah, take a moment to really take pause and think, what is fabulous going on with me and what's not so great? The reason it's so important to do that is when we're going into our activities, when we're going into our team meetings, when we're going into just making our day or a show that I might be doing, I need to know what is that positive fuel that's going to bring me into that meeting, onto that stage. It's going to be like, woohoo! Because the energy that we bring is what we get back to us as well. But also, what's the thing that's going to make me feel like I don't want to go in today? Or what's that thing that's going to kind of like that invisible thing, barrier that's kind of pushing me back or make me feel like I'm walking through jelly or marshmallows? That's just how I visualize it when I'm not having a good day. I feel like, I'm not getting anywhere, slowly but surely. Because to say just leave it at the door is a thing that some people can do, but I haven't mastered it. For me, I like to name it. What is the thing that's not so great today? Okay, I'm a bit stressed at my partner. Okay, I've got a big, I've got some deadlines coming up, or I've got a big workload here, or this is a new project that I'm going into, or I'm going to be meeting somebody else. Let's name it. Let's not say, I'm going to ignore it and that thing's not happening. Because if we're in that space, we can go, okay, I'm feeling this in my body, in my mind, because I'm a little bit stressed about my workload. So let me just relax and really be present in the moment and focus on the thing I'm going to be doing. And if we give ourselves time to be present, that really gives us a presence. And I said it before, and improv is so much about that. The energy that you put in the room is the energy that you're going to get out. If you've ever been in that team meeting and it's just been like, even before the Zoom cameras have come on, or even before you go into that room, it's just like, oh. But if you're bringing on that breath of fresh air, who's in your team, who's in your family, that when they're at the table or the virtual table, you're just like, it slightly brings a smile to your face. You're just like, oh, that person's there. All's going to be good in my hood today, or this meeting's going to go with a little bit more of a zing. So yeah, bring that energy, and whatever that energy means to you, so you can be present and have that presence as well. Also, a thing that I like to do that really anchors me is just, I said about naming our emotions. Let's just name things. If you're finding it hard to focus, an improv activity that we do to help us, to anchor us in the space, and also to just get us to focus, is name stuff. So what you can do is, I'm going to pick up things because we're not going to go on a tour of my house. This is my crib. So you will just point at something in your space, and I'll pick it up, and you just name it. So you just point at anything: pen, rock, phone, banana. You're probably expecting me to have something even more ridiculous things. So just see what's in your space as an activity you can do on your own, and just name it. So you're just pointing at it: wall, ceiling. And if you're in a really minimalist venue or space, really go in, crack on the wall, the bit of the carpet that's coming up because I decided to put carpet down, the fluff that's on the microphone. So we're really, really focusing in, taking in our environment. And then let's get a bit more creative with it. Let's just look at things and name them whatever. So you can look at something and I see it's a pen, but I'm going to name it cheese sandwich, a cat, a brain. And just go around and point at something. You see what it is, you acknowledge it, and name it something else. And don't judge yourself. Does it have to be wacky and weird? Yes, that's great. Could it be just something that's like the same thing but a different color, or in the same group? Yes. Let's not judge ourselves, because I gave you that activity, I gave you that task. You might do that on your own at home or whatever space that you're in. And we have that judgment of our thoughts. I said it before when I did the rose, and you might have thought of something and thought, no, let me think of something else. No, let's trust our instincts. Let's be okay and comfortable with just putting things out in the universe and going, it's okay if it's not the best thing, because I'm going to have more opportunities. Gosh, imagine if we was in a meeting and we had that energy that we felt like, do you know what? I can put my things out here on the table. I'm with a team that I trust and that respects me and my experience. So if I put something out there, they're not going to shoot it down straight away. They're going to go, cool, let's explore it. Is that something that works? Maybe it does, or maybe it doesn't. But the failure in that sparks the imagination in somebody else, and then they think of something else, and then we get to the destination through all those failures or the things that didn't work. So try that in your meetings. Try and have an open space where people can bring anything forward, and let's explore it. Because in things that don't work, we find things that do work. And imagine if no one dared to fail. We wouldn't have a lot of things. We wouldn't be online. All the things that make our lives so much easier, maybe bringing a little bit of stress, it wouldn't happen because people dared to fail. Next part of play, which I think is so important, is listening. Truly listening, being in the moment, like doing that one thing that you need to be doing, which is being in the moment, being in the meeting. Just truly listening, and we're listening like with our whole selves, with all our 5 senses. We're taking in what people are saying. We're taking in the vibes, that gut feeling that we have about people. We're taking in what we're seeing, what we're smelling. Or maybe, I don't know if you're working with products, maybe also what you're feeling as well. Listening can be something that we all will read in a manual, or go on some training and we'll go, hey, the first thing you need to know in communication is listening. And you're like, great, I know that. Thank you very much. This is why I'm here. But how often are we not? How often are we in a meeting, but we're really doing something else? We're trying to meet a deadline. Because I'm not listening. Because I can take the information in when I'm not on the screen, but really, I need all my 5 senses to take what's coming in, and not just necessarily the voice as well. So really thinking about how can I be present in the moment, and how can I really just listen to what another person has said. An activity that you can do to help with your listening is a little rhyming game. So you might point at something in your space. There's another one you can do on your own. You might point at something in the space. And I've got a dog here. So I look at it and I go, dog, hog. And I'm not going to judge if it's a great rhyme. I see this pen here. So I go pen, fen. Is that even a word? Yes, it probably is. I have a banana here. Banana, karma. So how can I really just look at what's going on and listen to myself and be like, oh, actually, what can rhyme with that? Another thing that is so important that we do within improv, and that you could take into your lives as well, in play, it's being the presence, your presence, it's the listening, truly listening with your whole body. And it's also it's the amplifying your team. When you're on stage doing improv, your role is to make your cast members, your other performers look good, and their role is for you to look good. Oh, imagine if you was in a team or any type of relationship, professional, personal, where your whole job was just like, hey, how can I just like big up my team? How can I be like the hype person, the hype man, woman, human for the other person? And if they're doing the same for me, oh my gosh, we're not looking at we're not looking at going into meetings and feel like, oh, who's trying to trip me up? No, we're looking at, actually, how can I make my colleagues look good? How can I support them to succeed? And if they're supporting me to succeed, then like we're all in this together. That also goes with clients as well, and the services that we're given. If we're giving the best service that we can, and we're doing it in order for the client to be successful with that service or that product, they're going to do the same with us. I spoke about the energy that you put in and the energy that you gets taken out, because they'll be like, this service is dope. And they'll give you that free advertising. They'll give you that like, that share, that referral that's gonna help your business, or maybe you professionally or personally just to grow, because it gives you connections. They go, oh, I loved working with this person because I felt like that we were truly a team. And then you might be connected with the people that you wouldn't necessarily would have been in the past, or if you were just playing just for yourself and trying to make sure that you was the MVP. And then lastly, element that we use in improv is yes and, the concept of accepting and building. And oh wow, the world has given us a great and horrible example of accepting and building with the pandemic. The pandemic is not something that I wanted, but within improv, you never know what you're going to be given. You never know what that offer is going to be, but then you can take control of it. You can see it as a gift of how you're going to receive it and how you're going to use it. So we was given the pandemic. We didn't know it was coming, but it happened, just like so many other things in life. But for me, I would say that I accepted that and I built on it. So I accepted the pandemic, wasn't happy about it, but this is the reality that we're living in. You might have it in the scene. This is the reality of the scene. But how can I build upon that? Okay, then I'm going to take myself online. I'm going to deliver my workshops online. I'm going to deliver my shows online. I'm going to have a much wider reach, which went from the places that I actually physically were in before the pandemic to literally worldwide. So the idea of accepting and building, it doesn't mean that we take away the element of consent, which is so important. It means that we go, I accept this reality, and how am I going to build on it? What offer has the universe given to me? How am I going to build on it? I'm on stage with another improviser and a player, and they say, right, we're under the sea. I don't go, nah, we're not under the sea. I go, yes, we're under the sea. And we're the first evolved humans that can breathe under the sea. And they're like, yes, we are the first evolved humans that can breathe under the sea. And oh my gosh, are we property tycoons, because the sea is pretty big. So the idea of going on a journey with someone, the idea of being present in the moment and having that presence, seeing life slightly almost as a performance, the idea of listening, but we've got to be present to truly listen with all our five senses. The idea of amplifying others, making sure your role is to make the other people look good and succeed, and their role is to do the same, and we're building this together. And then yes, and the idea of accepting and building on what the universe has given to you are some things that I use in my professional life, and I also use in my personal life as well. And it's brought me quite a lot of joy. So hopefully it can bring you that joy as well. Thank you very much. Ooh. I'm going to be shortly joined by Lynn again. Hello.
Hello. I was hoping that we would show a little slide with your main up. So hopefully that'll come up and we can have a look at that.
Oh, there we go. Words I said.
It's very efficient there. I was going to say I love all your analogies about that creative process that is so important in structured improv, where the yes and, because I think it's such an important metaphor for how we can live and work and together. I do hate people that do the shutdown thing, don't you, Monica?
It's exhausting, and you're in that meeting, and slowly they chip you down. So when you come to that meeting, you just go, do you know what? Unless it's fully formed, I'm not going to put it out there. And you're just squashing the creativity of the team, which means you're wasting money. You didn't hire them to just say the right thing. You hired them to think outside the box.
I think people do the shutdown as well. I think a lot of that comes from a place of fear. So they're frightened to. Improvisation is like putting yourself on the line. Your story about you didn't really want to do it when you were a kid, and then you got into it and you really loved it. And I think even a creative business meeting where you riff and you play with ideas, however mad they are, is really at the heart of creative business, isn't it? I mean, but tell me something. You also didn't talk about it today, but I've picked it up from a previous conversation we've had about life without a script.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Talk a little bit about that. We've got a little minute while we do this. So
I think the idea of someone, if I ever tell anyone that I'm an improviser and they're like, oh, what does that mean? It means like, I'll do like a show. It might be 5 minutes. It might be 2 hours, and we don't have a script. And they're like, oh my gosh, that seems so scary. And I'm like, I suppose it might be nervous, the fact that you're performing in front of people, but there is no, like, life has no script. We're never quite sure, like, best laid plans, like you put in a plan and it's like what is going to happen. And even more than now, we know that we have to be prepared, professional. We put in our time. Like, I've had lots of experience on stage of like killing it, and also a lot of experience on stage of being really bad or performing only just to one person. But like, you've come with that knowledge, that life experience as well. But life is without a script. So if you're willing to lean into the fact of like, I'm open to the opportunities, I know that I can be creative but also accountable. So like, me being like putting things out there and having no script doesn't mean I just say anything. I still have accountability because I'm a human in the world, but I can still be creative. So you're improvisers and you're doing it so well. I'm speaking to the people in their houses. You're doing it so well. So why not take that into other parts of your life?
Well, we've got to improvise for a little bit longer because we're just a little bit of a delay on our next guest, but we can fill because we're.
Oh my gosh!
Yes,
it's not even fill. This is just content that I couldn't have because there was a schedule. And this is almost, if we would have actually like planned in, this is a great example of why maybe going to an improv workshop. Not that you want to be an improv medium or performer, it's just so important. What about those times in the meeting when you're early or on time and nobody else is there, and maybe you've got to speak to a client or you've got to speak to a colleague as well, or the fact of what happens when your slides don't work, the idea of not having scripts, things not going to plan, and not feeling like oh my gosh, or just feeling like I need to be silent as well. That's why we need to really embrace the idea of, oh, it's okay to just put things out there. And I find that especially with performing as well, it's another thing that we can really
there we are, we're improvising here. Back in.
It's fine.
Just what you were saying, Monica.
And I was just saying the fact of like when the idea of like not being afraid of things not going to plan, because things aren't going to go to plan. And how can you truly just lean into that? And it's not leaning into it with just fluff. It's leaning into it with your personality. It's leaning into it with like connecting with people as well.
We've got the wonderful Keith Crombie here now. I mean, that's a really great conversation.
I've got a question for Monica, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Monica, how did you get into doing what you're doing now? Did you have other jobs that you worked in before and gave them up to go into what is essentially business for yourself? And if you did, how did that feel?
Well, I still do other things. I feel like I'm very much like, I am a performer and I'm an improviser, and I take all of those skills into my life. So I work with at-risk families and young people as well, and I use a lot of the skills of improvisation and use those skills, especially with vulnerable young people as well, to bring out their voice, to be able to be like, hey, let's explore certain topics. I think the idea of doing anything new for most people is really scary. Yeah. So when I was just like, when someone gave me an opportunity to host a show, I was nervous. Mm-hmm. And then I said yes, and then that was a gift that the universe gave to me, and actually a person I know. They're probably sitting there watching, being like, "That was me. The universe actually made me, but I also gave the opportunity." The idea of being able to say yes to opportunities is so important.
Listen, I'm not going to say yes, but I'm going to say I think our next special guest is here. So we can stop improvising. And thank you for your time, and we'll bring you back, Monica and Keith, for another chat at the end of the session. So I'm going to bring on, all being well, by the power of magic, there she is, the wonderful Sophie Mccartney. There we go. We were doing waiting for you. So
I know, 10 times. The internet was not being my friend.
Don't worry. I'm going to give you the fabulous intro.
So lovely, thanks.
And so we're going to find out all about how to really be savvy on screen with the queen of the screen. Sophie is best known to her fans as tired and tested, aren't we all? And she describes herself as a 30-something parenting viral comedy mum. That sounds hideous, but we know what you mean. She's got over 1 million, probably more now, loyal social media followers. More importantly, she is also the winner of the 2020 Funny Women Awards Best Web Series. Depiction of everyday life as a mum. She's recently featured in Glamour magazine. She's got a book deal. She's got it all going on. She's got it all going on, and we love her. I asked her what her biggest challenge had been in the previous lockdown, but in the current lockdown, I don't think it's changed. Homeschooling 2 non-compliant small people and realizing that she's as thick as 2 short planks. She's not. And I also asked her what she's proud of. And she said, keeping it all on brand. I'm not doing a very good presentation job here. Keeping it all on brand. And she is most proud of course, her Funny Women Award.
Of course I am.
Big plug. Over to you, Sophie. Thank you so much for being with us. Enjoy.
Thank you, Lynn. And I always say this, I just wish that Lynn would follow me everywhere, just introing me to random people that I meet. Although that said, I don't meet anybody now. I just sit at home with my children and my husband. So that'll be a lovely day, won't it? When we can all just go to Tesco and I can bring Lynn with me. She can introduce me to the cashier. Sorry that I was not here when I should have been here. I was having a few tech issues. Technology sometimes is not my friend, which is, I feel sometimes a little bit ironic, given that my job is based around being on social media and the internet, and I can never get it to work. But yes, a little bit about me. I know Lynn's just kind of filled you in, but I am a comedian. I'm a content creator. A lot of the comedy that I do, well, I guess because of current climate anyway, but how I started off in comedy was online. So I produce humorous videos, mainly centered around the world of parenting, because that's currently just my life at the moment. I've got a 7-year-old and a just turned 5-year-old who constantly keep me on my toes. So I like to find a lot of humor in my day-to-day life and share that with people online. I also kind of do sketches and spoofs of things and mockumentaries, and how I kind of got into this online realm was I used to have a very sensible PR and marketing job, and I then had my kids and things just didn't quite match up in terms of finances and putting them in nursery and me working 5 days a week. So I decided to kind of take a step back from the corporate world and be a stay-at-home mum, and I got a little bit bored of that after about a week, and I kind of wanted a little bit of a release of my creativity, I guess. So I started a blog, which then very quickly turned into a vlog after one of my friends kind of very nicely bullied me into putting some video content out online, and I was very apprehensive about doing anything kind of in video form. I like to write, so I'd been doing written blogs about my experiences, and so this particular friend was like, no, you need to get out there, get your face on the internet, and off you go. And I didn't know what I was going to do. It was all very daunting, so I decided that I was going to just go for it. just gonna go for it. So I did a parenting parody of a very popular at the time Ed Sheeran song. I did it was The Shape of You, was like everywhere at the time, and I, lyrical genius over here, changed the lyrics to The Smell of Poo. And I did it about my life as a parent, and I put it online. Very, very nearly didn't, because I was so worried about what people might think about it. But I just went, oh, do you know what? What have I got to lose? And I threw it up there. And then within about a week, it had about 25 million views. And my Facebook following went from about 500 people to about 80,000 people in that time. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is what I do now. And then it went from there. But what I wanted to talk to you about today is kind of how I do things on screen, on camera, how I built up my confidence. And I know a lot of you probably don't do what I do, but you might incorporate kind of having to be on a screen now more than ever in your day-to-day lives, things like your Zoom meetings, or, you know, just catching up with your friends more, doing it visually as opposed to being on the phone. And sometimes that can be a little bit daunting if you're not used to it. So I want to share with you just a little bit of advice and maybe some hints and tips that'll hopefully make you feel a little bit more confident when you're online or on a screen. And that might then kind of move forward into your professional life, help you kind of feel a little bit better when you're doing presentations and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to first off talk about the one thing that I found the most difficult to get over when I started doing this, and it was my voice. It was my voice, and probably like a lot of you, when I first heard my voice back, I was like, is that what I sound like? Because you do, when you hear yourself recorded, you sound completely different to what you think you sound like in your head. I don't know the science behind it, guys. Okay, I don't know the science, but it's a fact. You sound completely different. And so for me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. My poor husband, just his ears must bleed on a daily basis with my dulcet scouse tones. It was just like, oh no, it was awful. And I was thinking, I can't possibly like go online and talk to people. Ugh, it's so horrible. So I know a lot of you probably feel that way as well, but what I like to do to get over it is I just like to listen to myself. It sounds quite narcissistic. I just like to listen to myself all day. But if I'm doing anything, so if I'm doing a video online, I will record a script quite often, and I will just play it back to myself so I can hear it. I can hear what my voice sounds like in certain kind of dialogue, when I'm in a flow, if I'm talking too quickly, if I'm saying and like stumbling over things quite a lot, and I try and refine things down from that. But another thing that I do is if I'm just messaging my friends, for example, instead of texting them, I will do voice notes on my phone. I'll just pick it up. It's also a lot quicker, especially you can probably hear my children screaming in the background. Apologies about that. But I'll just pick up my phone, and instead of typing it out, I'll just send them a voice note. And I know that seems like quite a simple little thing, but if you're not used to constantly using your voice in that way and you feel like you're not very confident, it can just be those really small little steps that just help you feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more confident in how you sound. So that's the thing about voice, and yet nobody likes it. So you are in good company. I think the only person who likes the sound of their own voice is my small shouty child who's kicking off in the background. She could just listen to herself all day. We also fret about how we're going to look on screen as well, and kind of how we come across, whether that is we have maybe an insecurity about our kind of physical appearance, or whether we are nervous and we're like this with our hands and we just don't like it. Again, the same with the voice. You will not like how you look when you see yourself on a screen for the first time, again, because it's different. It's like not what you're used to seeing. And I think a lot of us now are on a lot of Zoom calls for all our meetings, whereas normally we might have just had a phone call with somebody, but we're like, no, let's get on the Zoom. It's here. We're gonna use it, utilize it, and we can see all our lines and we can see our dark circles from when we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching Bridgerton. And we fixate maybe a little bit more on those kind of physical elements of our appearance when we probably shouldn't, because nobody really cares what you look like. They should be concentrating on what you're saying and your confidence. And I think a lot of the time we get caught up on things that people are not going to notice at all. But some little tricks and tips to kind of help you maybe feel a little bit more confident when you're on screen. Lighting will always be your best friend, whether you are filming for a video that you want to put out on social media, or whether you are filming just a Teams meet, or maybe you're a teacher and you've got to prepare your daily lessons now online, and you're like, oh no, I don't feel confident. Get a good light and you will be set. So behind me right now, I've just got like a softbox light that I've got set up. I always just have a few of them kicking around because I film things quite regularly, but you don't need technical kit. Just get a lamp and put it behind your laptop, computer, phone, whatever you're using. Just put your lighting behind it so it reflects back off your face, keeps you front and center of attention, which is what we want people to look at you and be nice and clear on the video as well. If you are a little bit uncomfortable with being on camera, I think a really good kind of baby step towards feeling more confident is doing things like Instagram stories or Facebook stories. They're really quick, just little 15-second videos that kind of get you out there on more of a public sphere. And again, this is if you want to kind of break into doing online content maybe like I do, or whether you just want to feel a little bit more comfortable. But pick up your phone, just shoot something, 15 seconds, pop it up there, and then it's gone, it's done, and you don't need to worry about it. And I think sometimes just getting over that first little hurdle about putting yourself online or putting yourself in front of other people can make a world of difference. The other thing that I like to always tell people is eye contact. So hopefully right now you will feel, because I can't see you all, this is quite like a strange way of doing it. It's not like a Zoom or a Teams or anything, can't see anybody, but I am staring at my little green dot here at the top of my laptop because I know that's where my camera is. So I'm keeping my eye contact with you, and hopefully you feel more engaged. I think it can be quite distracting when you are doing things like Zoom or Teams and you can see other people and you can see yourself, and you will quite often you'll go to talk to somebody who's in a corner down here. So you'll be talking like this, but you think that person's looking at you, but they're not. Everyone's just like, where's she looking at? Where's she off? So try and keep your gaze and try and keep kind of all of your focus on your camera so that people can see you and they feel engaged with you and they feel more connected with what you're saying as well. Also try and make sure you've got good sound as well. And it's very difficult at the moment, isn't it? You know, you might have kids screaming in the background when you're trying to do something, or you might, be squirreled away somewhere and, there's rustles and all sorts of things. But just try and get somewhere where you've got as much kind of clear, crisp sound as possible. You can get things like clip-in mics. Oh, here you go, a little demo here actually. This is one of my cameras that I use for just filming content, got kicking around. And I've got an external mic on that. So that will give me really nice kind of crisp sound if I was filming something that I was going to put out on the internet, for example. Preparation. Now I know Monica is queen of improvisation, and I do improvise as well. I'm improvising quite a lot now. I've got some points that I know I want to talk about, but kind of the padding in between, I'm improvising. But if I am doing like a video, or I do some stand-up as well, when we used to be able to do that back in the good old days, but I would like to feel very well prepared for that. And that personally kind of makes me feel better in these situations, to know I kind of have a rough idea what I'm going to say. I have a few tips about how I memorize scripts. So I will write out exactly what I'm saying, but I won't use the full words. I will use the first letter of every word in that sentence, and I'll write it out, kind of putting in the grammar where it should be and all the punctuation where it should be. And that really, really helps it just be ingrained in my mind. So that's a little tip that I use. You can also use things like teleprompting apps as well. There's all sorts nowadays when you go on the App Store, loads of things that can kind of help you with that sort of things. But yeah, I get a little bit anxious if I think I'm going to forget everything. So I do rely on a little bit of preparation and a little bit of the improv as well. And I kind of merge those two together. But if you are presenting, you've got, your PowerPoint up or whatnot, and this is the joy now, isn't it, of people actually not being with you, and you don't need to fret so much. You can have your post-its kind of popped up behind your computer and have like little prompts or little physical prompts as well. I sometimes use when I'm doing comedy, that if I'll try and associate a bit of the script that I have learned to my watch, or I'll associate it to the clothing that I'm wearing, just as a little reminder and as a little prompt to kind of keep me on track as to where I am going. The next thing I want to talk about is your passion and your humor and how you kind of come across online. So for me, I am very passionate about humor. I love comedy, and I very much integrate that into what I do online. And I think the wonderful thing about comedy and humor is that it naturally puts people at ease. And I think sometimes, maybe in a corporate world, that sometimes we try and kind of rein that in a little bit, and we feel like we're not allowed to bring that into a situation. Whereas actually, some of, when I was working in PR marketing, some of the kind of best pitches and presentations that I did, I integrated humor into that situation, and it relaxed everybody, kind of got everybody feeling like they were on a level playing field. So don't be scared to bring that into whatever you are doing online. I've said this before, that humor makes people human, and I think once you realize that somebody on the other end of a screen is just a fellow human, it can maybe not seem as terrifying. And of course, if you are passionate about the topic that you are talking about and you know it inside out and backwards, that will always show, which is why I kind of quite like my prep side of things, but as well as the improv as well, Monica, as well as the improv. And I think I'm probably coming to the end of my time. Am I, Lynn? Sorry, because I started a little bit late as well, so I don't know if I'm running a little bit over. I don't want to kind of creep too much into the Q&As part, but I just want to encourage everybody to just kind of give online stuff a go. Don't be scared. Be as creative as you want with it. Be as relaxed with it as you want. You know, it's not the scariest thing. And they're just people at the end of the day on the other end of these screens. And you just need to be yourself and let that come across in the online world.
As ever, I'm sitting here feeling very guilty because I do rely very much. I'm going to purchase an auto cue app in a softbox because you look so good. So there's Sophie's wonderful tips, which I think you've covered beautifully. And I just wanted to make one little point, which was I think you sort of made it as well. Should we bring Monica back in? Let's bring Monica back in because we love to see her face. There she is. I was going to tie both of your wonderful presentations in as well. I just think you said it, Sophie. There's a kind of combo, isn't there? There's the stuff that's there, it's in your brain, and comedians do that all the time. They know their material, they know it, they prepped that. But the improvisation bit is when they look at their audience and they think, oh, I've got an audience of male rugby players here. They won't like my stuff on breastfeeding. Won't go down well, that material. So it's all about how our brains work in the moment, and that's kind of where the improv comes in. Should we go to you, Monica, on that one?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, we've got to remember that we have that foundation of our training, our life experiences. So that's why if we can be more in the moment and we can feel more relaxed, that we can just play, that's why improv is so important. And I love the way that Sophie was just like, yeah, improv is great, but I still just need that foundation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you definitely need that foundation there. But when things don't go to plan, or when the audience is not what you think it would be, how can you adapt? And it doesn't help us as performers and professionals as well. The fact that if we're able to adapt, that means we're open to much more opportunities, and we're helping to grow our businesses, or the businesses that we're part of as well.
Sophie, hopefully you can hear me. I've just so what have you got anything to add to that? I mean, that whole thing about humor making you memorable, I believe in that as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I'm a big believer in that. And as I said a few minutes ago, when I worked in the PR corporate world, that was what I did. That was kind of what I was known for in my part of the job. That was my job. Write the funny slides. That was my part of it. But that was the bit that I actually enjoyed the most about my job, which fundamentally has kind of got me to doing what I do now. It was always, I felt, probably my calling. That was my thing. But I mean, the improvisation part of it, 100%. I mean, I've been in a comedy club and I've had this whole routine, done about motherhood, and I've looked down and it's student night and I've been like, oh no. But it's that being able to flip it. So, I just switched it to, oh, you lot don't know what's coming for you. Kind of, you're so lucky sitting here. And it's just, it's being confident enough to believe in what and just being able to adapt it to any scenario. And I think that could be in a comedy club or it could be in a boardroom. It doesn't really matter. It's just having that kind of confidence in yourself that you can deliver and not letting kind of the room intimidate you and take that away from you.
It's interesting to talk about rooms and spaces, but I actually think that for some people, this small space is more exposing and more intimidating than being hidden in a big room of people. So, it's let's have one very quick tip from you each about that, and then we'll bring Keith back in. Monica.
I would say that whenever I'm feeling nervous, I'm really a big fan of just naming a thing. So if you're just like, I had to do it here because, and like, if there's like loads of mess in the background and you can't put up a virtual background for whatever reason, just name it. Because if everyone else is thinking about it, things didn't go to plan, and you go, hi, I've acknowledged this as well. Let's move on with our lives. I think it's so important.
And Sophie, you do a lot of that because of your kids?
Yeah, exactly. So I generally start anything now that I do online with like, you know, it comes with like a little caveat or a forewarning to everybody. I think, you know, and again, that puts people at ease. And if you're feeling nervous about doing something online, I think it's fine to say that, because currently, you know, it's a strange time. People are being put into positions that they wouldn't normally be. And so, you know, if, for example, you were on like a big, very important, scary Zoom call with lots of, you know, big bosses and whatnot, you know, it's absolutely fine to say, oh, well, this is, you know, a little bit strange for everybody, and just kind of bring everybody into that fold so everybody feels like they're in it together almost.
Well,
yeah.
He's not big and scary, but let's bring Keith back in.
I'm not big and scary, and I'm sure my boss would resonate with the term a small non-compliant person. But anyway, one thing I was looking to ask both Monica and Sophie, a lot of our business customers very often have to do presentations. Now, at the moment, obviously, everything is virtual, but one of the scariest things they find is if they do have a room full of people and they have to stand up and give a presentation and talk about their business. Is there any sort of one top tip that you can think of or you could share that helps them overcome their nerve, or just to focus on when they're speaking to a room full of people?
Sophie.
Yeah, so I had such a major fear about doing stand-up comedy. I worked myself up into an absolute, you know, frenzy about it. It just, you know, I used to stand up in boardrooms and give presentations, but suddenly doing it to a room full of different people outside of what I was used to was very scary. And for me, I just kind of learned a few coping mechanisms that just steadied me and grounded myself. So if I kind of felt like I was, you know, maybe speaking too fast, I would try and put some pauses in. I learned a little trick where if I felt quite nervous, I would kind of go in between my thumb and my index finger and just kind of, just not like hurt myself, but just kind of have a little squeezer there. And then that, for whatever reason, that kind of it centered me and kind of made me feel real and there and in the moment. And then I could carry on. Again, I don't know how useful that is. That sounds quite weird now I've said it out loud, but I think it's just taking a moment to ground yourself, take a breath and calm yourself if you're feeling quite nervous.
Yeah, I'd say breathe. That would be number one, breathe, because the oxygen goes to your brain and that helps to put you in the right frame of mind, because the adrenaline kick's useful as well. That's what gets you out there to perform.
Yeah, exactly.
Last word, Monica, last word on this one.
I would say you have a brand, so being yourself works really well. So like, you know your business, especially if you're the one that created it. So just speak to people with a passion and like the commitment that you have about it, just to them. Talk to them like anybody, because at the end of the day, even when someone's like a big CEO or a big this, they're also a human being who like goes to the loo and stuff. And that, like the family goes, ha, you did that thing. They're also a human being. So if you can be able to speak confidently about what you're doing, remember that you know it. If you're speaking fast, a thing that will sometimes help is stroking yourself, but in the sense of, oh, give me a moment.
I do it. Don't ideas.
If you're speaking really fast, when you're practicing maybe a presentation, it's like try like stroking your leg or maybe your hand, because at home, try this activity. Try speaking really slowly but moving your body really fast, or try moving your body really slowly and speaking fast. It's quite difficult. So if you like physicalize it and get used to being like, oh, okay, this is how I need to speak, you get to know like what is a good rhythm for other people and not just yourself.
Lovely. Well, you know, last word on this, and back to you, Keith. People buy from people, you know, so being your own brand, you know, that's how people do. You empathize, you like people, and that's why you do business with them. So that's my last word on it, really. So thank you so much, Sophie and Monica. Keith, last word from you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lynn, and thanks to Sophie and Monica as well for giving up their time this evening to share their hints and tips. It's very much appreciated. Just in closing, if you're looking for some further support or help with running your business, can I draw your attention to our most recent support tool called Business Builder? It's the bank's completely free virtual tool and crammed full of digital learning, as well as a library of workshops and a thriving online community to make sure that you're able to upskill, build your networks and share your experiences as well at a time and pace that suits your life and well-being. Peer-to-peer support is a big part of the digital support and very much needed at the moment during restrictions. You'll get more details and registration at our website, rbs.co.uk/business. Lynn, thank you very much once again for helping to pull all this together. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you once again. And to everybody watching, thank you for taking the time out of your evening to attend this session. I really do hope that we'll be able to meet up again later this year, hopefully over a coffee and a cake as well. From all of us at the Royal Bank of Scotland and Funny Women as well, thank you very much indeed. Stay safe and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.